Before every meal, rush of anticipation overtakes me. It's been like this since I was a kid. I remember walking through the market with my mom, tugging her hand with purpose. The food stands, they called for me. Eventually I end up letting go, but only when my nose smelled something delicious. It drew me in like a spell, and before my mom knew it, my face was pressed up against the displays. Since then, food has become a sort of my own odyssey, an adventure in its own right. Through the Hungry series, we discuss the swirling flavors and excited palates. Taste first, ask questions later mindset, and always with an afterthought. Should we grab dessert? Our first destination is Japan, and we visit the collective string of cities, Tokyo, Osaka, and Kyoto. Chaotic but orderly, eccentric yet reserved, traditional alongside contemporary, Japan proves to be the land of contrasting personalities where all differences are set aside when it comes to flavors. If you are watching this video, then you probably are aware it was a year ago. You booked a trip to Japan in a spontaneous moment like I did, and are beginning to realize that the country has a lot to offer. And by this, I of course am talking about food. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. However, in Japan, you'll be hard-pressed to find somewhere open early in the morning. You can instead head to the convenience stores, as you'll find they're one of the only places open, and they happen to be everywhere. Here you can find a variety of baked goods, instant food, and my favorite go-to breakfast in Japan, the onigiri. Unwrapping the onigiri can be tricky, so we've prepared a step-by-step instruction so you don't end up with a mess. Step 1. 99% of people will not get this step wrong. Hold the tab in the middle. Step 2. This is where it starts getting tricky. Firmly pull out the bottom corner of the wrapper and allow it to slide out. Step 3. Now proceed ever carefully, pull out the other corner. If your onigiri doesn't look like ours, it's most likely you missed a step somewhere. Eat your onigiri in shame and try again next time. Now that breakfast is out of the way and you've had a chance to do a bit of sightseeing, you're probably ready for lunch. And since breakfast was a bit light, you're most likely craving something heavier. My suggestion? Gyukatsu. Gyukatsu is one thing that got me culture shocked from the first bite. When I worked in the kitchen briefly, the chefs always joked about deep frying a steak when running behind on the order. You can imagine my surprise when we stumbled upon this deep fried beef cutlet restaurant with a decent lineup, which added to my intrigue. When I finally bit into my first piece, I questioned why beef isn't deep fried more often. Surely it had what I look for in a perfect meal. Deep fried? Check. Meaty? Check. Juicy and tender? Check and check. Beef grades can definitely vary, as you will see the changes in price. However, even the cheapest grade which I ordered turned out to be very tender. Not surprising, since I find Japanese beef tend to be high quality even at low grades. Another option for lunch is to find yourself in one of many ramen shops available in the city you're in. Each shop offers their own unique flavor, with some shops having perfected the recipe over a few generations. So whether you walk into an independent shop or one of the well-known chains, make an effort to try out a different one every time, as you'll be rewarded with broth, oh so rich in flavor, with the perfect balance of fat. As the sun begins to set in Japan, the country as a whole goes through a transformation. First thing I notice is the prominence of men in suits, or salarymen as they're known here, have loosened their ties or ditched them completely. Their now red faces turn a shade darker with every establishment we visit. Depending on when you decide to have dinner, you'll encounter the salarymen at some stage of their transformation. For me, the most intimate encounters were in the tight spaces of Kushikatsu shops. With most independent shops lacking the space for a proper booth or table, prepare to rub elbows with the locals seated along the bar top. Kushikatsu to me seemed like the ultimate drinking food. Lightly battered and flash fried, these skewers are offered with a variety of vegetables and meat to satisfy your cravings. The sauce is sweet and savory, which blends well with the crispiness. Just as a tip, double dipping is strictly prohibited here. A lot of times the menu will be in Japanese, but we didn't have too much trouble pointing at random and ordering. If that doesn't happen to be your style, take a picture and use Google Translate, as that often works better than trying to ask the chef. Other quick dinner option is to find a conveyor belt sushi restaurant. The sushi here is still better quality than what I'm used to back home and a fraction of the price. There often is a way to get yourself seated, but I assure you it's an experience not to be missed, and I found that the line moves at an incredibly fast pace. Leslie and I love dessert and feel that it's a must after dinner, and sometimes after each meal. Those looking to cool off after a long hot day can do so with a bowl of shaved ice dessert. Served in generous portions with condensed milk for sweetness, topped off most commonly with matcha tea, fruits, or red bean, we found ourselves eating the bowl clean in no time. Not in the mood for a cold dessert? Try some baked sweets from the nearest bakery, as you'll find a lot of delicious things that you won't see back home. Our favorite happens to be the bouncy cheesecake. We stumbled upon Uncle Ricoro's in Osaka and weren't sure what to expect. Subtle but sweet aroma and the sound of ringing bells drew us in. On paper, it's a cheesecake, but it bears no resemblance to the one you know. Fluffy, light, with undertones of cheese, savor each bite as it will melt away, leaving you longing for more. This definitely was the case for us, as we went in to try just one slice and left with the whole cake. Looking back, I'm not sure what I expected in Japan when I first arrived. Things just seem better here. Queues are orderly, convenience stores are actually convenient, and to my delight, people here care about food, a lot. I knew that in mere 3 weeks I would barely scratch the surface. Yet the longer I stayed, closer I got to the country, and soon realized the busiest streets don't necessarily have the best restaurants. In fact, it's the ones on the side streets that will carry the alluring scent of authenticity. I fell in love with Japan, in more ways than I expected.